What we just witnessed between Senator Adam Schiff and Attorney General Pam Bondi was not just a tense exchange, it was a reflection of a much larger, deeper crisis in American democracy. It was about what happens when the Justice Department, an institution designed to protect fairness, integrity, and the rule of law, becomes an arm of political power. Senator Schiff's questions were not partisan. They were fundamental. They were about truth, transparency, and accountability, three things without which no democracy can survive. As a former federal prosecutor, Schiff understands the sacred weight of the Justice Department's mission. For generations, the DOJ stood as a pillar of trust, an institution that served justice, not politics. Whether under a Democratic or Republican president, its duty was the same, to apply the law equally to friend and foe alike. But Schiff came into that hearing with a heavy heart because that trust has been broken. Under Bondi's leadership, the Department of Justice has become something it was never meant to be, a weapon to protect those in power and to punish those who dare to question it. Schiff's tone wasn't fiery, it was mournful. He was speaking not as a partisan senator but as someone who has watched an institution he once served be twisted into a political tool. He reminded us of the thousands of prosecutors who have left, not because of politics, but because they could no longer carry out their duties ethically. These are men and women who dedicated their careers to serving the public, to upholding justice without fear or favor. And now, they are walking away because that promise, the promise of impartial justice, has been shattered. That's not a statistic. That's an alarm bell. When Schiff brought up the alleged $50,000 bribe, cash stuffed in a bag, allegedly taken by a top deportation official who promised favors once back in power, he wasn't reading gossip. He was pointing to something every American should care about: corruption inside the very agencies meant to protect them. And when he asked Bondi, directly and repeatedly, did he take the money, she didn't answer. She could have cleared the air. She could have defended her department with facts. But instead, she attacked Schiff personally, accused him of dishonesty, and dismissed the question altogether. That's what happens when accountability meets arrogance. The truth becomes inconvenient, so it's replaced with aggression. Schiff kept his composure, not because he was trying to win an argument, but because he was defending a principle. He was defending the idea that the law must answer to truth, not loyalty. What makes this exchange so powerful, and so disturbing, is that it wasn't about one case or one official. It was about a pattern. Schiff went down the list of questions Bondi refused to answer. Questions about ethics reviews, prosecutions, cover-ups, firings of career lawyers, court orders ignored. One after another, each refusal was a small wound in the body of justice. Together, they revealed something systemic: a Justice Department that now operates in darkness, unmoored from accountability, and shielded by political loyalty. Bondi's answers, or rather, her refusal to answer, are part of a dangerous trend we've seen take root in recent years: the normalization of defiance. When those in power are confronted with wrongdoing, they no longer explain, they attack. They no longer defend their record, they delegitimize their accusers. It's a tactic meant to exhaust the truth until the public no longer knows who to believe or what to care about. Schiff refused to let that happen. He kept pressing because he knows that the erosion of justice doesn't happen in one day, it happens through 1,000 moments like this. When one official refuses to answer, when one court order is ignored, when one oversight question is brushed aside, that's how corruption grows. Quietly. Slowly. Until it feels normal. Until the public stops noticing. This hearing was a reminder that the fight for truth doesn't end with elections or headlines. It continues in rooms like that, through people like Adam Schiff who refuse to let the noise drown out accountability. Schiff was speaking for every prosecutor who left because they couldn't stomach the corruption. For every citizen who still believes that the law should be blind. For every journalist and investigator who risks their career to expose the truth. And let's talk about Pam Bondi's defense, because it deserves scrutiny. When she deflected by saying the bribery incident happened before her confirmation, she was technically right, but morally wrong. Leadership is about ownership. When you take the oath to lead an institution, you inherit its responsibility. Saying "it happened before me" is not an answer. It's an evasion. The role of Attorney General is not to protect friends in high places, it's to uphold the Constitution, even when it's uncomfortable. When Bondi accused Schiff of slandering good people, it showed exactly what's wrong with this political moment. She sees oversight as an attack, not a duty. But Schiff reminded her, and the country, that congressional oversight exists precisely to stop those in power from abusing their office. Democracy is not fragile because it lacks laws, it's fragile because it depends on those in power to respect those laws. And yet, Bondi's performance is part of a larger trend. Across government, we've seen officials turning public service into personal loyalty tests. We've seen courts defied, watchdogs removed, and dissent punished. Schiff's message was simple: this is not normal. This is not how a democracy functions. When the Justice Department starts acting like a private defense team for the president, it stops being the people's law firm. And when Schiff entered those letters into the record, the ones signed by thousands of former Justice Department officials, both Democrats and Republicans, it wasn't for theatrics. It was to remind America that the concern is bipartisan. These are people who served under presidents from both parties, and they're sounding the alarm: the Justice Department is losing its soul. For Democrats, the message from this hearing couldn't be clearer. The rule of law isn't just a talking point, it's the foundation of everything else. Healthcare, education, voting rights, none of it matters if justice itself can be bought, silenced, or bent to serve the powerful. Schiff's fight in that hearing was a fight for the very idea that America still means something, that we are still a nation where truth matters more than loyalty, and where the law protects everyone, not just those in power. If you take anything from this hearing, let it be this: corruption doesn't survive because of bad people, it survives because of silent ones. The reason oversight matters is because every time someone like Adam Schiff stands up and says, "Answer the question," democracy breathes a little easier. So don't watch this and move on. Learn from it. Ask your leaders where they stand on the independence of justice. Demand transparency. Pay attention when public officials refuse to answer, because that silence speaks volumes. Support those who still believe that the law should serve truth, not politics. And above all, stay engaged. The fight for democracy isn't won in elections alone, it's won in moments like these, in hearings, in investigations, in the unglamorous but vital act of asking hard questions. Because when no one asks, power answers only to itself.